To Vietnam, where a property tycoon has been sentenced to death in the country's biggest ever financial fraud case. Truong My Lan was one of 85 people on trial for embezzling $12.5 billion. The death sentence is seen as unusually severe. Lan's arrest last year was part of an anti-corruption drive that's engulfed the top levels of Vietnamese politics. Let's look at this with Tuong Vu, who is a professor of political science and director of the US-Vietnam Research Center at the University of Oregon. Welcome to DW, Professor. $12.5 billion sounds like an awful lot of money. Put that in perspective for us.
That's about 10% of Vietnam's annual GDP, gross domestic products, meaning the total value of what Vietnamese workers make a year, and that's about 10% of that number.
And so, how did Truong My Lan do this?
This is just a basic bank fraud, and she was able to do it because she was able to bribe top officials through her political connections, and she was just embezzling money from the bank to use for a real estate investment. And she was able to do that, like I said, because of her political connection, political protection by the top officials.
Right. Because people are going to look at this and you think, how do you steal 10% of a country's GDP and nobody noticed? But you're saying she bribed people, but she must have bribed an awful lot of people for that to go either unnoticed or unchallenged. For how long?
The case took place around 2012, so it has been going on for about 10 years. And I'm sure the officials knew about that, but they just pretended to look the other way, because her main patron used to be a very powerful man. He was the party chief of Ho Chi Minh City and a member of the powerful Politburo of the Communist Party. So he was one of the top 15 or so leaders of the country. So he was so powerful, and he was ruling Ho Chi Minh City like his own fief. And he was her main patron for a long time. And he retired in 2015. And after his retirement, his associates began to be persecuted by rival factions and other leaders. And he was also sacked from his position, even though he already had retired. And then certainly, she bribed several officials in the Inspector General, including the Deputy Inspector General of the whole banking system. She bribed them, gave him $500,000, and she gave the chief inspector of the banking system in the South perhaps around $5 million, and various other officials.
OK, so this corruption spread far and wide and to the upper reaches of this one-party system. So now that we have this death penalty, explain to us why she was given this death penalty, which is not only unusual, but it's so rare for a woman to receive it, I understand.
It's within the frame of punishment for criminals like her. So it's not it's not unpredicted, but I believe it's going to be commuted. But they want to give her a very heavy sentence so that she is willing to give up the information about her other assets, because they still want to recover the assets, many assets from her that they have not been able to. So that's one of the reasons why they hand out a death sentence for her, but it's likely to be commuted later. But this is not, I have to say that this is not the first time that death sentences have been given out. But all of them, if I remember correctly, have all been commuted in the past.
So how was she found out in the end, given that she had this such a widespread network of corruption?
Well, basically, everyone who does business in Vietnam has to try to evade the laws or violate the law in some ways, because the laws are vague and the laws are meant to serve the officials and not to serve the business or the people. So the laws are made to serve the officials, the government. So whenever the government wants to use the law against you, they can use it. And so, it's almost impossible to do any business in Vietnam without violating the law.
Thank you so much.
So she has violated the law, and the officials knew that, but then she was protected by top officials. They could not reach her, they could not touch her until her patron retired. And that's when they could go after her.
Right. They should turn that into a film. It's fascinating. Professor Tuong Vu from the University of Oregon, thank you so much.
Well, thank you very much.